Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Ninja Chickens podcast. This is episode 14 of my fibery-related podcast with a little bit of homesteading thrown in, usually at the end. Today we're going to talk about knitting and eco-printing. I have a few things I want to show you and then tell you a little bit about what's going on, or what's been going on these last couple of weeks, and a tea recipe for you. My name is Maria, and you can find me on Instagram as ninja.chickens. You can find me on Ravelry as Ninja Chickens, and there's a Ninja Chickens Ravelry group, which has all the show notes, as well as show notes on ninjachickens.org. Let's see. The Ninja Chickens aren't doing so great right now. Well, I have a couple of them. One of them, Goldie, she's a Swedish flower hen. She got out of, if you saw my Instagram post from a couple of days ago where there was a face shot of a chicken, that's Goldie. She's a super sweet chicken. And we moved the electric fencing, and she found a little hole where she was able to get out. And I think she was out overnight one night, and the next morning she wasn't walking well. There's no signs of injury. She doesn't seem to be sick. She's just off balance. So I'm going to take her to the vet today. Luckily, we actually have a vet who sees chickens. And then I have another one who has an eye infection. I think he got scratched. He looks like he's got a scratch under here, and now it's all swollen, so I'm working with him. Poor things. They don't do as well in this weather, though their injuries seem to be nothing to do with the weather. But right now in North Carolina, during July and August, it's almost always the most hot, humid months of the year. And when it's hot and humid, of course, it's harder for them, but also it's just not... well, there's a lot more worms in the ground, there's a lot more bacteria and things around, and so they're more likely to get sick during this time of year, I've found anyway. And they're healthy, it seems like, as far as that goes, luckily. But yeah, so I'm going to be taking Goldie to the vet this afternoon. Hopefully she'll be feeling a little better. So let's get on to the fibery related part of the podcast. My first and only finished object is my Chard shawl. I love how it turned out. I think it's gorgeous. It's big and beautiful, and the colors are really lovely. This is a pattern by Rosemary Hill, and it's called a Chard, and it calls for one skein of a specifically dyed type of yarn, so you're able to get these short row repeats in it. I got my yarn from another crafty girl, and I actually used 2 skeins because I wanted it nice and big. And I'm thinking, I knit this with my sister in mind, thinking about giving it to her for the holidays. But she's hard. I have a hard time figuring out her style. She's really fashionable. She's always wearing really beautiful clothes, but I don't know whether she'd like it or not. So I've sent my mom on a mission to figure out if she'd like it, and try and get the answer out of her sneakily so that she doesn't know if she'll be getting it for the holidays. So that's my finished object. I enjoyed knitting it. It was a fun knit. It was simple because it's mostly garter, except for the small parts where you have repeat, where you might be doing a little purl, or mostly stockinette stitch. And yeah, so that's that one. I have a few whips. I have not been working on my motto die hap. So you start from the outside and you do this long lace repeat, and then you begin working in. I know I've talked about that before. I'm just kind of tired of doing all the lace repeats, so I'm putting that aside to work on things that I'm a little more excited about working on right now, and I really want to get done with those lace repeats because I'm excited about filling in the center, but I have to look at it every time, so it's not a mindless knit, and that's what I've been feeling like lately. So what I did do, though, is I've worked a little bit on my personal design, and I'm curious about this. I know that some designers will not tell you anything about the design that they're working on. In fact, even putting out testing calls, they won't even show you the picture. They'll say it's for a sweater and this is what the sweater's like, but they won't show a picture of what it is until they release it. And I understand that is you know, to keep it secret, keep the suspense and all of that. And then some designers will even show you what they're doing as they're designing it, put out all kinds of pictures as they work on it to show you what's coming along. And I'm curious which you prefer. I kind of like sharing it, but I'm wondering, is there a reason why I should keep it secret? I mean, I don't feel like anyone's going to steal the design. And if they do and they get it done faster than I do, then more power to them, I guess. But I kind of like sharing it with you. So let me know what you think. I'm curious. Another thing that I think everything I've got today now then is new whips that you haven't seen. I eco-printed a bunch of sock blanks and decided to knit one on my own so you guys can see how they look. I don't have any in the store right now, but I have a lot of undyed sock blanks in my house right now. So I'm planning on doing a lot of those this summer, especially over the next couple of weeks when my kids are in camp. So here's the sock blank. Let's see if I can open it up so you can see it more easily. It was together like this. And I like doing my socks 2 at a time from the toe up. So I actually just snipped the center and unraveled so that I had 2 sock blanks to work from. And the reason why you can't go from either end is because it only unravels from one end. So you had to, you know, I cut it in the middle so I can unravel it in the correct way. And here's what I've got so far. They're super cute. That pop of blue is coming from the pincushion flowers that I have in there. They look like this. And then all of this is black walnut. I think this is mostly pincushion and black walnut. There may be some, oh, there's some hydrangea flowers in there. Let's see, this one has a better one. This right here. All of that is hydrangea. So they, you know, nature's colors just go together so well anyway. I never worry about if it's going to look good when I knit it up. They just do. I mean, those yellows and blues look so pretty together. So I'm excited about those. And like I said, I'm going to be doing a lot more. I've been doing a lot of experimenting with eco-printing, and I'll tell you a little bit more of that very soon. And I'm excited to show you some of that information, or some of the stuff that I've been doing. So that is just a vanilla sock. I cast on 56 stitches. Actually, no, I'm sorry. I cast on 20 stitches for each toe and then worked up to 56 stitches. I feel like that's a good size for me. My second cast on is a crochet pattern. I have not done any crochet patterns before. I've used crochet a tiny bit in some stuffed animals that I knit for my kids when they were younger, and in the steek that I did, episode 3 or 4, when I steeked a sweater and then used a crochet buttonhole. But I don't know how to follow a pattern. I don't know what the codes mean for crochet. So my friend Mars, who is Hey Brownberry, and the Brownberry Chronicles on, well, I'm not sure if she's doing her much on her podcast right now, but she has a podcast, and she's Hey Brownberry on Instagram. And she came up for a visit with her girls, and she taught me how to crochet. So I have been working on this, and I really like it. It's kind of addictive. So far, I've started on my 7th color, I think. So let's see if I can get those. There you go. That's looking a little better. So what I'm doing is I have, and I'll insert a picture so you guys can see, I have 20 sample skeins from a class that I took on dyeing with madder. So I am using each of those skeins every 5th. Yeah, so every 5th color. So it's the first color, and then the 5th color, and then it'll be every 4th color, I guess. Yeah, there's 3 in between them. And it's going to go from purple to reds, peaches, and then end up back to purple again. So it's going to be really beautiful. And then in between, I'm just putting any scraps that I have. I don't have a huge amount of scraps. So it's a worsted weight. I'm doing a worsted weight. I cast on 275 stitches because I want it to fit on a queen size bed. I don't start small on my new projects. But yeah, it's worsted weight. I don't have a ton of stash. Scrap stash. I have about as much as would fit into a queen size bag. You know, if you go to the store and you buy a queen size comforter, they come in these plastic bags. That's what everything's shoved into, all my scrap yarn, every weight. So I'm doing worsted and DK, and then I'm holding fingering weight double, and that way I can get a little bit more out of it and I can use up most of my stash. But I'm really excited about it. I think it looks really pretty. So my mother and sister used to crochet when I was a kid, and they made the standard like blocks that you would then attach together and made blankets like that. And I never liked them. And I think part of it is that it was all completely acrylic yarn. So it was it felt plasticky and it smelled musty. And it's not, I mean, they were washed. It's not like they were kept in a musty closet, but I just didn't like the smell of the yarn and the feel of it. And so it's not something I wanted to snuggle up in or wrap around me or really have on my bed. So, so I'm excited about this because it feels squishy. It feels woolly. It feels nice. And I love how the colors are turning out. So I'll definitely be working on that. My plan was, you know, I'll just put a stripe in here or there whenever I have some extra yarn. And it'll be done in a couple of years, whatever. This is probably going to be done by winter. We'll see. And I may put the modern dye off a little so I can finish this one. But I really want to finish that one too. I don't know. More time, more hours are needed for knitting. I am going to get, this is kind of going into home life stuff, but I am going to be getting a bunch of time in the next couple of weeks because my kids are going off to camp. This will be Leaf's first year doing a sleepover camp. But it's the same one that Kaya goes to, so she'll be there, and he feels totally comfortable with it. He's excited. But next week, every day is marked off in my calendar as do nothing but natural dyeing and knitting. It's going to be so much fun. I'm sure my husband expects that maybe we'll have a little bit of time together since the kids aren't there, and maybe we can, you know, go on a date night or go out to a movie, but he's going to be working. So during the day, completely fibery and dye related, which is going to be awesome. And I hope I can get enough done. I hope I don't have sick chickens all next week. That's selfish. Of course, I hope they're getting better, but I hope I don't have to focus on anything but knitting and dyeing. So those are my works in progress and my whips. Other things that I've been working on are lots of natural dyeing. So I've been doing natural dyeing for a good number of years. I think my first project I did when Leaf was almost 2. And I made a really cute little vest for him, and then I dyed it in lichens and marigold. And it came out this beautiful golden color, and he loved wearing it. It was so sweet. But eco-printing is fairly new. I've been doing that, I guess, for the last year or 2, and I really, really love it. If you've never done it, it's so you feel inspired by the plants that you're, you know, the beauty of the plants that you're putting on this silk or cotton or whatever it is that you're using. And then you roll it up and you steam it or you simmer it or however you process it. And then it's like Christmas morning, all of these little gifts in front of you, and you get to unwrap all of them and they're completely changed and just so beautiful. I love being able to capture nature in fabric like that. And so my plan was to take this whole summer to really experiment with different dyes, to experiment with different methods, different plants, how I process things, what fabrics I use. So I've been doing a lot of that. And along with that experimentation, I've been a part of the Wild Diaries 3-part dye series class that she's putting on. Justine is in the UK, and in April, I believe it was, we had part 1, which is about natural dyeing, and the 3 main colors that people have used historically, the indigo, madder, and weld. And this section, this month section that we're doing right now, is specifically about eco-printing. And this is why I took the course, because I wanted to see, you know, other methods, other ideas, how other people were doing things out there. And I've been loving it. I've been having so much fun experimenting. So, oh, and then there's a third part to the series, and I think that's going to be in the fall, and that is more about pattern, like shibori and eco print patterns and stuff. So that's going to be really exciting. But one thing I've been doing silks, I've been doing cotton. Oh, you can see one hanging up over here. These are drying. I put them out here because I wanted to show them to you, but I wanted to let them dry a little first too. And I've been doing paper, cotton paper. So I'll show you that first. I like writing letters, and I've talked about this before. I like having pen pals, so I wanted to make some pretty notes to write on, and also to send thank you notes and stuff. So I've been doing these. I've got tons of them. Anyway, so this is a red nasturtium flower, and oh, there we go, and yellow marigold leaves. This one has the other side of the red nasturtium flower and some maple leaves, like that. Some black walnut and some maple. They're just so beautiful. I like this black walnut. It came out very purple. And this one, see, I have a lot of them. I made a lot. I plan on making more. This one has goldenrod, which is super yellow. Oh, that's St. John's wort. So St. John's wort, for those of you that don't know, is a green plant that has bright yellow flowers, little yellow flowers. But in those yellow flowers, if you squeeze them, your hands will turn like a purpley red. And when you make an oil or a tincture from it, it's red. And that's where a lot of the medicine is. And so when you dye with it, if you can see, some of the red along the edges, you get that color out of it. I have some silks that I can show you that have a lot more color. Ooh, this one's pretty. This has some eucalyptus. And some more St. John's wort. So I'm just having a really fun time with this. And the part of the reason why I'm doing all these samples is also because it's been in my mind for a while to start teaching classes again. I used to teach at a couple of the local herb schools. I would do the anatomy and physiology since I have a nursing background, and a lot of the materia medica, talking about specific plants one at a time, and some classes like that. And I really enjoyed it. And I stopped doing that when Leaf was born. I just needed to focus my time more at home. So I was asked to start teaching herb stuff again, but also related more to fiber and eco-printing and natural dyeing, and then herbs, which I think is really cool. That smushes together both of my big passions, plants and fiber, natural dyeing, knitting, all of that just into one big ball of fun. So I'm super excited to start teaching those. And this summer, with all the experimenting that I'm doing, I'm wanting to put together sample booklets so students can look at all the things and the varieties of ways they can create them, as well as writing some really detailed notes so people have things to take home with them and repeat what they've done in class. So this is what I'm doing this summer and all the experimenting I'm doing. So this one is silk noil. Can you see right here? Look at that print. That is black walnut. Black walnut never fails. Black walnut, sumac, maple, they always just make beautiful prints. And then this, another one with silk noil. But look at those colors. Just beautiful. This is a new technique that I've been learning through Justine at the Wild Diary, and I'm loving it. I love how we put this together. And then I have lots of silks. These are all silk samples. Let me see if I can pull a couple out for you. Oh, this is a pretty one. Whoop. I have a little eucalyptus plant in my garden. It won't overwinter here, but it'll grow big enough that I can use it for a little while. The colors are a little bit blown out, but you can imagine in person how bright that orange probably is. It's really pretty. And then the little pops of gray and purple are actually maple. And then, let's see, this is a nice one that has some pretty St. John's wort on it. Let's see. So you see right here, the flowers are purpley red looking. So pretty. And then, let's see if you can see this one. This one was dyed with madder and fern. Yeah, you can get that a little bit. That fern, sorry, I'm having such a hard time with figuring out which way I'm supposed to go with the camera, going one way and needing to go the other. So that is a fern print on there. And then this next one, I love. This is logwood and maple and rose leaves. Look at that. Isn't that just stunning? I want a dress like this. I need to find a silk dress so I can get this exact same thing. I absolutely love it. I've had a few friends who read tarot cards ask me if I can make some silks, some big square silks, so they can do their spread on the silks and then fold the cards up in them afterwards. So I've actually ordered some larger square silks so I can do some things like that. And if you guys want some, I'm happy to make some extras because they're a lot of fun to make. I'll probably make myself a few. So, yeah, cards, silks, cotton, it's just too much fun. Yeah. And right now, the gardens around here are so completely full. July is the month where it can get overwhelming because there's so much coming in. There's so many weeds growing, so many things blooming. And I've kept up with it pretty well this year, which is nice. I'm not, like I said before in previous episodes, I'm not growing a whole lot of food this year. But the flowers have been amazing. I have so many. There's none in the backgrounds. There's a bunch of dahlias over that way, and then a few more in the other garden, and they're just massive. I mean, some of them, they're called dinner plate dahlias, some of the varieties that I'm growing, and they're as big as your face. They're so pretty. And I get up in the morning, and instead of opening my computer and turning on my phone, I force myself to ignore all of that and just walk outside barefoot if I can and just go through the gardens and look at the flowers. And oh man, it's such a nice way to start the day. So it's hard not to want to capture some of that because, excuse me, how beautiful would it be in the winter to pull out a tablecloth or something that's had this print put on it from your summer harvest. Actually, this is something I hadn't mentioned in a few episodes. I have gotten some organic cotton sheets and I've moored into them with soy milk. And I've been letting them cure for a while, and this next week one of the things I'm going to be doing is dyeing those. But I talked before about how nice it would be. Sorry, a black walnut just fell out of the tree. How nice it would be to sleep on sheets that have been dyed in plants that are healing. So the bottom sheet's going to be turmeric. I know that because turmeric is a really nice anti-inflammatory, and after the stress and inflammation of the day, I thought it would be nice to sleep on that. It's also a pretty yellow. It's not an extremely color fast dye. It will fade, but I don't mind shoving the sheet in some more turmeric every year if I need to. That's totally fine. The pillows, I'm going to be doing moon phases on, and I'll show you what I mean in just a minute if you haven't seen an episode before. So it will probably be another cat. It will probably be a full moon phase. Maybe I'll dye them in lavender, which would be nice to sleep on, and then some other color as the resist color, so that the moons are somewhat of a pale purple, and then I have some other color on the outside. I'm not sure about the top sheet. It might be peach. And then probably some eco printing on them, maybe along the top where you pull the sheet up to your chin. That's going to be fun. This is probably not anything that I would ever end up putting in the store because it's going to be a lot of work. But I will try and record a bunch of how I do it so you guys can do it too if you wanted to do it at home. So let's see. Where am I at now? So I guess this is kind of about acquisitions now. The moon phases that I'm talking about, I showed you in previous episodes some really beautiful wood resist blocks that my neighbor had carved for me or cut out for me. And I dipped them in indigo vat and made some pretty napkins that had moon phases on them. So from the crescent moon to the full moon back to the crescent again. And I love them and they're really pretty, but it took them a long time to do. And after a while, they'd only work in indigo because you don't have to heat indigo too hot. And I wouldn't be able to put them in any other dyes. And I thought, well, maybe we could do something that could be simmered and I could put it in other dyes. So I got in touch with a sign company around here that works with stuff like that, that has what's called a CNC lathe, where they can program in exactly what they're wanting and it cuts it out. And they cut for me mini moon phases out of polycarbonate. So some of these have been scratched up a little bit because some little child of mine was pushing them along the floor and playing a game with them. So this is my group. So if they're all looking scratchy, this isn't what's going to be going up. But here's up in the store. Here's, you would put one on each side of your fabric and there would be your full moon. Then you've got the 3/4 moon and your half moon and your crescents. Let's see. I have 2 size crescents. The one that goes with the actual, this will be the same size as the full phase set. And then I have some large crescents too. So what I have to do with these is, I take and I deburr them is what it's called, and make sure that they are smooth and don't have any sharp edges or anything, because if you're going to be using these with silk or whatever fabric, you don't want them to cut the fabric. So I'm taking a bunch of time to do that right now. I'm also going to do some dyeing with these in the next couple of weeks so that I can show some examples of how they can be used. And then hopefully soon I will get them up in the store and you'll be able to get one full phase from crescent, crescent, half, 3/4, full, 3/4, half crescent. It'll be the full phase. And you can also buy the larger crescents by themselves. So I'm excited about those because, so they're made out of polycarbonate and I've tested these. You can simmer them so they can be used with acid dyes, or I can put them in a madder dye bath and they're not going to melt and they're not going to react with the dyes. The only thing that I don't know about is microwaving. I don't have a microwave. So if you were to get these and you do dyeing with a microwave, I would just be cautious. I don't know how this works in the microwave or if that's going to affect it. But I know that they're fine. I think I simmered them up to 220 degrees and they were totally fine. And that's a good boil. I usually don't go above 170, 180 when I'm natural dyeing. So I'm excited about these. I've been working on these for the last month and a half, trying to get it perfect, the shape right, the right thickness, the right kind of material. So I'll have a bunch of these up in the store probably in the next coming weeks, and I'll let you know when. But I want to show you some samples first and do a little more testing with them. So that was one of my acquisitions. Another one is, so I had told you, let's see, I guess it's been about 2.5 weeks since we last talked. And very soon after I hit publish on my last episode, Mars came into town with her 2 girls. We had never met in person. We've only met through Instagram and, chatting online and Skyping and stuff like that. But it's one of those things where you feel like you connect with someone. And I've had a few of these experiences through Instagram that I'm very thankful for, because I've been connected to a world of people that I otherwise would not have gotten to meet. And we joked around, Mars and I joked around about getting together this summer and hanging out, and it just worked out. And she has 2 girls that she homeschools, and both of them are around the same age as Kaya. So that's perfect. Leaf, you know, gets along with anyone. He doesn't care what the age is, so he was happy to hang out with them. And Marcia and I just hit it off. It was like old friends from, you know, some past life somewhere, and we just could talk, which was just lovely. It was so sweet. And she brought me, because she knew she was going to be teaching me how to crochet, because I asked if she would do that while she was here. And I had told her about how I really, really wanted this specific type of crochet hook, but that I wasn't going to get it yet because I didn't know if I would like crocheting or if I would use it. And she brought it to me. Here it is. This is the crochet hook from the Bee Queen collection. Let's see if I can get that a little better for you. Just a little bit. It has the size stamped on it. So I love these. I've been a fan and follower of them, even though I don't crochet, for a long time. And I always knew that if I learned to crochet, I wanted one of these hooks. But for a new crocheter, they're on the expensive side. They're handmade. You know, they're carved on a lathe and then taken off and hand carved. The hook is hand carved out of beautiful woods. They're absolutely stunning, and they feel really good in your hand. They're not heavy, so it doesn't feel like you're getting weighted down. I have the hook I showed you last week, 2 episodes ago. It has that amethyst on the end, and it actually feels a little bit heavy. And so it's beautiful to look at. It's not as much of a pleasure to knit with or to crochet with. This is absolutely amazing. And I'm so glad that she got it for me. It was such a fabulous surprise when she told me she was getting it. So, and I love it. It's smooth. The tip does not grab. You know, the yarn doesn't snag, which another hook I have does that. It snags right here, and so you can't just move smoothly with it. So yeah, I'm really loving it. I'm not actually using this for the current project that I'm working on, the Granny Stripe. So, the Granny Stripe blanket is the Attic 24 pattern, the one that I'm using. I know there's a few out there, but I'm using the one from Attic 24. And because I'm doing it mostly in DK and worsted, I'm using a G hook, which I think is a 5 or 5.5. I haven't learned those yet. This is more for a fingering weight yarn. And I'd love to use it, but I wanted to start with a larger yarn to get the feel of it. So absolutely gorgeous. I would highly recommend them if you were a crocheter. And where it's stamped, it's a little bit flat, so it's easier, you know, to use that for your thumb, depending on how you crochet, or your forefinger if you hold it like a pen. So that's that. Let's see. And then yeah, so we had an amazing time when she was here. One of the things that we planned on doing was going to the Firefly gathering, and I think I told you about that in the last episode. It's a primitive skills type gathering. Kaya had broken her arm on her birthday, so it was not a bad break. In fact, they couldn't really see where it was. They just knew that it had the signs of break because of where there was some blood in her joint. But it healed very quickly, and she was able to get the cast off after a week and just take it really slow. And she's mostly able to use her arm again without a problem. So that was very good. But because she had the cast on during Firefly, she wasn't able to do as much. And so we did classes together. And one thing that she wanted to do was a comb carving class. So she sat and listened, and I carved this for her. This is cherry wood, so over time it's going to turn more red. And it was just a big slice of wood they gave us, and we carved it with utility knives, not with like a carving knife. This guy likes using utility knives, and it worked really well. It was just a slab, and we started by carving into these areas and evening that out. And what she'd like me to do is either burn or carve something into here, but I'm not. I've never done, you know, carving a straight line and smoothing something out with sandpaper is one thing, but carving a design in here, I don't know. So this is what it's like so far, but it works. It's nice. I've got some nice little tips on it, so it won't snag your hair. There we go. And then the other class we did was it's called turkey wing brooms. And at first we thought we were going to be using like turkey feathers. And we were kind of excited when we found out we weren't, that we were actually going to be making a broom, and this is what we made. Isn't that gorgeous? I am so excited about this. This was taught actually by a friend of mine, this class. I'd met her before many times, and then we recognized each other in class. I was like, oh, hey, I know you. So this was so much fun, and definitely something I'd like to do again. I have some friends who grow broom corn. Oh, there's a little ladybug in there. There she goes. They grow broom corn of the standard variety and also like a red colored broom corn. So I'm going to see if they'll let me harvest a little bit and maybe make a couple more of these, because it was a lot of fun and not hard to do. It's just until you see someone do it. Like I would look at something like this and be like, how the heck do you put that together? And so when she showed us, I was like, oh, that totally makes sense. You work in bundles and add a little more to it each time, wrapping a little bit more. And yeah, so very exciting. And some people ask on Instagram, what would you use it for? You can just hang it up if you want because it's pretty, but it can be used as a regular broom, you know, for sweeping off an outside table or, you know, cleaning up in the kitchen. It's just, you may not want to because they're really pretty. I do have something hanging like this in my house, so we may hang it up. Yeah, and let's see. What else? I feel like there's so many things. Oh, yeah, it's been a busy couple of weeks. Sorry if you feel like I'm rambling on, but there's been so many things going on. The summer is just such a busy full time in such a good way, you know, with visits and activities and all of that. One of the things I've been doing with the kids is playing with geodes. My friend Ashley, who is another Instagrammer that I had not met yet, and a couple weeks ago, I guess it'd be almost a month now, she came to visit this area, and she and I spent the whole day together eco-printing, and we had a blast, and she's just such a sweetheart. And she likes to collect rocks from places that she's visited, and she saw that Leaf had a rock collection, so he gave her a couple of the rocks from his rock collection, and she sent him, because she lives out in Kentucky near Mammoth Caves, some geodes. And he was so excited. 3 large geodes. Like this box was very heavy. So we've cracked 2 of them and are waiting on the biggest one till my husband gets home. He's been out on a business trip, so he gets home tonight, and then tomorrow we'll crack the next one, and that's been so much fun. You know, figuring out how to crack them, what the crystals are, how they're made, and all of that. That's been a really neat process. And one thing she also sent as a thank you for the eco-printing is a bag. Now, I don't think I've ever mentioned to you guys that I'm a huge Game of Thrones fan. I've read all of the books, so I knew exactly what was going to happen when the Red Wedding came. But now it's going off of, you know, there's no more books, so I don't know what's happening in the next season, which comes out Sunday. But she asked me, because she didn't know I was a Game of Thrones fan, she asked, well, who's your favorite house? And I was like, well, the Targaryens and the Starks, of course. They need to get married and take over the throne. If you guys aren't Game of Thrones fans, I apologize because I'm talking about this a little bit. But if you are, you know exactly what I mean. That Daenerys and Jon Snow are definitely going to need to hook up and become king and queen, because they're meant to be. And if you know the theories behind Jon's parentage, you know that he's actually Targaryen. So she gave me this with the 3-headed dragon and the winter is coming. And then on the back, because she and I were talking about how I felt like knitting terminology was very sexual, and how knitters can be talking about hose and whips and you know, all kinds of stuff that seems that are terms that are used in different ways when you're talking about things not related to knitting. She gave me this, which I think is super, super silly, because I love that people call their project bags their ball sacks. So now I have both, depending on my mood. That's the side that will go out when I'm knitting in public, because yes, I will take this out in public with me. Okay, so just a couple of the things to chat about. I know this is getting a little bit long, and I try and keep them closer to the 30-minute mark. No, I don't. I'm totally lying. I just record and hopefully it's around there. But I will cut it down soon. two things I wanted to mention. One is, you will have seen, if you follow me on Instagram, that we had a bee swarm. We have 6 hives, and I'm assuming it came from one of the hives. This is late in the season to have a swarm. So they say a swarm in May is worth a load of hay, a swarm in June is worth a silver spoon, and a swarm in July ain't worth a fly. And the reason is because if they swarm early on, they have time to find a home and build their stock before the winter. This is late in the season right now for bees to swarm, and for them to find a hive or to be rehomed and then build up their brood, their honey stores and all of that before the winter comes is a lot less likely. So we had a ton of room in all of our hives. Hives swarm when there's not enough room and they need to separate. So the hive feels like they're starting to get cramped, and they actually start feeding a few of the baby bees what's called royal jelly. It's a different kind of food that makes them grow bigger and basically genetically programs them to be queens. So there wasn't any reason why we should have crowded hives, because they have enough boxes and room to grow. But for some reason, unless it came from somewhere else, for some reason, there's a swarm. And it landed actually just over there in a dogwood tree. And it was a big swarm and all over the place. And generally, when they're swarming, bees are fairly docile because they don't have a home to protect, they don't have honey to protect, they've just gorged themselves on a ton of honey, so they have time to find a home. So I had a friend come out because I was leaving for class and didn't have anything we needed. And I generally don't work the bees anymore. It's a friend of ours who takes care of them. And so he came out and used a broom to sweep most of them into a smaller box, and then left it out for the rest of them to find the way. As long as the queen is there, that's where they're going to want to go. So he left it there and came back later at night so he could bring it home with him. And most of the swarm, well, a lot of the swarm seemed to be hanging underneath this box. So he opened the box and looked in, and it was completely full. The swarm was so big, it had filled up this, it's like a half-size hive box. It's called a nuke box. It had filled it up and was hanging on the bottom. And there was still a little bit left on the tree, maybe 100 bees. So he put another box on top and set it up so that they can just continue to go in over the next couple of days, and he'll pick it up on Monday and, hopefully help them settle in. Well, this morning when I woke up, the spot on the tree probably had 6,000 or 7,000 bees on it. It's much bigger and it keeps growing. And so I'm worried that one little cluster that he didn't get into the box actually has the queen, and now everybody's going back out. But the thing is, there's still this good home there, and if they see it as a good home, they'll move in. I found that bees like the smell of lemongrass essential oil, and when I used to work with bees more, I would use that as a way to attract them to a new hive. So maybe sometime today, I will go out there and put a couple drops of lemongrass on the top of that hive and see if that will encourage everybody to move in. We'll see. But it's a really cool experience when you go outside and the world is humming. There's just buzzing everywhere. I don't know if you guys can hear it, but I can still hear it back there, this buzzing going on. And when you walk past it, you can hear it. But when they're swarming, it's like a cloud of bees. And it's just this all over the place. It's so cool. I did get some videos, so I'll try and put that in here for you so you can see and hear a little bit of it. But it's just a really neat experience. I don't know if you can hear it, but there's a swarm going on in our tree right now. Do you see them? They're trying to find a place to settle at the moment. I remember once when we'd been on the land maybe 3 or 4 years, and we were out here on the patio making a new hive because we knew that we needed more room for some of our, we were hammering it together. We knew we needed more room for some of our hives, and my husband and I were like, I'm surprised they haven't swarmed yet. It's getting on near May, and they're pretty crowded already. And as we're talking about it, we hear this hum, and we look up, and over the house flies this big dark cloud of bees, and they just go right off into the woods. And my husband goes running off in the woods, taking off after them to see if he could find where they land, and he couldn't. They just flew off too far. So they'd either decided they were going to go far from the hive, because usually they find a spot near the hive where they're coming from, and then they send little searchers out from there to try and find a better place. So it may have been that they had already swarmed and were hanging on a branch near the hive, and we didn't notice it, and then someone found a spot and they took off. So, but it was really cool. Anyway, okay. So the last thing I have for you guys today is a tea recipe. I've had lots of people ask for different types of tea recipes, and I'm trying to get some of those simple ones out there for you guys. If you ask me specifically, do you have one for menopause, or do you have one for a specific condition? It's a little bit harder. It's a lot harder, really, because I don't know you individually and what might be causing those symptoms. With herbs, it's not something where you can say, here's the magic mix and this will work for everyone. So it's easier to do generalized formulas. And right now, because I'm not a practicing herbalist anymore, I've been out of the loop for a few years. You know, I stopped working clinically after Leaf was born. And so I still, you know, use those herbs that within my family and with friends that I know well, but I'm not comfortable giving out herbal recommendations really that are going to be medical recommendations. So whenever I give an herb tea, I will put in the show notes where you can get those herbs, as well as if you're looking for a practitioner, where you can start looking to find good resources for practitioners and herbal practitioners in your area. So just know, if you've asked me for a specific tea or something about a condition, I'm not ignoring you. I'm either trying to work up to a tea recipe, or it might be something where going to some of the websites where you can find a practitioner would better suit you, because I don't want to tell anyone, you know, try and tell anyone about herbs when I don't know you personally and really go through a full intake and detail and stuff. So today's recipe was inspired by someone who was asking for a good summer mint, and I'm calling it the mint summer quencher. It's an iced tea, and it's a super simple recipe. I just went out in my yard and gathered these, but these are things that shouldn't be too hard to find. The first ingredient is mint. Any of the mints that you have. I used chocolate mint and a spearmint and a wild mint. I have all of those in my yard. The next thing is peach leaves from a peach tree that has not been sprayed. You can also get organic peach leaves. I believe Mountain Rose has them, but there's links in the show notes to where you can get these herbs. But if you have a peach tree in your yard, or you know someone who grows peaches, if they don't spray it with something, you know, you don't want to have the sprays in your tea. But peach leaves, and the third thing is hibiscus flowers. Sorry, there's a little bug flying around my head. So just 3 ingredients: mint, peach, and hibiscus. And I chose these specifically because, like I said, it's been hot and humid here, and these herbs are especially good for cooling your body. They're refreshing. They just help to bring down that heat. Peach is one that I really like. Talking about bees, I really like it for bee stings, because it helps cool down that heat that develops after you get stung by a bee. So, and it also is really good for sleep. So it's calming. So yeah, so that's it. Equal parts. If you do a teaspoon, like if you want to make up something to last you for a couple of days, you could do a quarter cup of this is the dried herbs, a quarter cup of your mints, a quarter cup of hibiscus, and a quarter cup of your peach leaf. Put it in a baggie, shake it up, and then use 2 teaspoons of that in your cup of tea. And or you can make a larger amount and stick it in the fridge so you can have an iced tea for later. And that's it. I think that's it for today. Like I said, these next couple of weeks I'm going to be doing a lot of dyeing and knitting, and hopefully I'll have lots of goodies to show you on the next episode. Yeah, I hope you guys are having an amazing summer. I'd love to hear about any plans that you have for the summer, things that you've been doing, or winter. Do you guys in the Southern Hemisphere have a big winter break, or is it that you have a bigger break during the summer months there, which would cover your holidays months? I've been curious about that, because the summer break began in the Northern Hemisphere because it was a good time for kids to be off school so that they can help with the harvest season. But you're not harvesting anything in the Southern Hemisphere if it's wintertime. So I'm curious, what is your holiday and break schedule like? Do you have a summer break, or is it a winter break? Anyway, I hope you guys are doing well. It's always a treat to talk with you, and I get so excited when I press publish and send it out to the world, and then have your feedback and hear how you guys are doing and get to interact with you guys. So thank you. I appreciate it. And I'll talk to you in a few weeks. Bye-bye.